This is on a bill to counter Chinese naval modernization. As the United States of America, we shouldn't have to fear any country, including China. But with this bill, we perpetuate that fear and prepare ourselves for a battle that will never happen. For that reason, please join me on the negative. Now, Mr. Miles, in your authorship speech, you outlined 2 locations for military bases under Section 1 of the legislation, Australia and Japan. Unfortunately, neither of those parties will be willing to work with the United States in implementing this bill. First, let's look at Australia. As The Economist explains, in February of 2013, Australia very recently rejected an American proposal to start plans for a military base on their soil. And in fact, Prime Minister Abbott has explicitly told this very Senate that none of our plans for a base will come to fruition, because Australia plans to block any efforts by the United States to do so. So I'm sorry, Mr. Miles, but the Outback doesn't want us back. The problem is even worse in Japan. As reported by the Christian Science Monitor in May of 2014, already there have been threats and counts of sexual assault on existing U.S. military bases in places like Okinawa. As a result, the Abe administration has made it one of their primary goals to shrink U.S. military presence in their nation. By passing this legislation and trying to force yet another American military base on their soil, it's just going to make us enemies, as Japan and Australia will be much less willing to work with the United States, which could be even more of a problem as the geopolitical tensions in that very region of the world continue to grow. In this climate, Senators, we need allies. And by passing this legislation, we destroy any of the potential that we have to maintain those. But the problems of this bill extend even further under the premise of its existence. Right now, the legislation assumes that China is the one and only enemy of the United States. But in reality, that isn't true. The issue was explained by the Council on Foreign Relations in February of 2013. That by trying to modernize the American Navy and plant military bases around the world, America treats China as if they were the Soviet Union in a Cold War era. Senators, the situation is nothing like that. China is merely acting in its own self-interest of self-preservation. It feels entangled in all the alliances that we have built up around the world and is trying to create some of its own. As a result, they've modernized their navy. But here's what happens when we try to do the same. We have a twofold negative impact on America's relations with China and the rest of the world. First, those Chinese officials that have at times been sympathetic to United States interests will now turn against us entirely and have their worst suspicions confirmed. And for those who are able to show a little bit of interest towards the United States will no longer get their policies through the Chinese government. It makes diplomacy next to impossible. And that's something that we cannot afford today, Senators, which is why our only option is to fail this legislation and ensure that we don't ruin those relationships that we have right now, whether they be political or economic. Passing this bill destroys all of them. Senators, don't be afraid and fail this legislation.